Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Towards the end of the last decade, I was asked by the leader of the Conservative Party to draft and produce a report on economic competitiveness, a fairly dry subject. I took the remit pretty widely and turned it into a general economic report. And one of the really big points I made to David Cameron as leader of the opposition and William Hague as shadow foreign secretary towards the end of the last decade was the very simple and obvious point, the one that sometimes got forgotten in Europe and North Atlantic circles. And that was that India and China are coming to the World Party. And we should welcome that. It's fantastic news that hundreds of millions of people are seeing the opportunity that free enterprise and business success can bring to raise living standards, to produce more interesting lives, to power that knowledge revolution and that living standard revolution that we all desperately yearn will spread around the world. And I've set out some figures for them and showed them just how the world was going to change. Because if you get to the point where 1.2, 1.3 billion Indians are enjoying something much more like Western living standards, that is going to be a colossal economy, first or second biggest economy in the world, and China similarly with her very large number of energetic people. And just setting out some pie charts and graphs, rolling forward the growth rates and showing what the world might look like in 2020 and 2030, I think had an impact on policy formation and attitudes within the Conservative Party at the end of the last decade and carried on into the coalition government. So I was delighted that this work had a beneficial impact. It's not always true of my work. It doesn't always immediately get welcomed and taken up. Sometimes we have to go through a crisis first before people see the need for it all. But on this occasion, they liked it, and the new coalition government, through David Cameron and William Hague, launched a new policy. And the policy was that we were going to take Asia much more seriously. There was going to be a doubling and redoubling of commercial and diplomatic and political contact, and a new relationship being formed, as we see, between the United Kingdom and India. There was a temptation to take it for granted, to look backwards. I said, no, this is a new country, a colossally important country, emerging in Asia, and so we need a new relationship with it, and that is exactly the coalition government's stance, I'm delighted to say. David Cameron is having his third visit to India while we meet here today, and has only been Prime Minister since 2010, a new level of intensity from the top, and that is filtering down through the diplomatic service and through the business community. We are very keen to develop this relationship. It's good for you and it's good for us. I also did something practical, as I tend to combine a practical life with a political life. It is sometimes possible to do that. In the last decade, my second job, now moved on from it, but for the last decade I was chairman of an industrial multinational company making components for diesel engines. And we had activity in Europe, we had activity in North America, we had activity in China, but we had nothing in India. And so I led the team that set up an inward investment and a plant in India, and that worked extremely well. I was thrilled and delighted at just how relatively easy it was to go in, to find a welcome, to set up a factory, to make a high-quality product using an Indian workforce and to fit it in to a multinational company working in one of the most competitive engineering sectors at a very high level of quality and achievement. And we were able to add design and know-how, but the Indian staff was talented and soon took to it, and it became a very successful business in its own right. So I know it works. So my message to the British business community is take a venture, go there. Serious big market, really talented people, people with a will to work, people who wish to get on and wish to be true partners in developing businesses in India and for India, and then to export from the Indian platform elsewhere. If we look today at the opportunity, I think that the sky is the limit. Why shouldn't it be when there is such a big and energetic population in India? And why shouldn't it be when there is a lot of know-how and technology and business expertise in the United Kingdom that needs to export so that we can maintain and improve our quite high living standards? And I think it has become a shock to the West to have lived through the drastic crisis, the banking and central banking crisis of 08-09 and the recession which that triggered, and to realize finally that in this very fast-changing world, quite a lot of the way out of the disaster that struck the Western economies towards the end of the last decade must come through those new investment links, those new trading links, those new export opportunities into the fast-growing Asian territories. We meet today in one of the great cities of the world. I see from one of these endless league table exercises that London has managed to pit New York in getting an accolade of being the best in all sorts of areas. I'm sure they were carefully chosen, but it's good that people can make that claim and demonstrate that London is truly a global multinational city, open to talent, open to money, open to ideas, open to hard work, and is growing far faster than the rest of the United Kingdom as a result. Something that happened under the last Labour government is continuing under the coalition government. Some people are very worried about this. I always say, don't knock London. It's great that we've got this first-class world city that is so open and shows how an open economy and society can produce great first world living standards that grow rapidly. We need to bring up the growth rate of the rest. We shouldn't knock London or overtax London or damage the successful formula that London has developed. We need to spread it around for the rest of the United Kingdom. But London is that dynamo, and the London business services, the London financial services, the London cultural activities, London tourism, these are all great opportunities for us to sell more to India, and there will be many things that India will wish to sell us in return, because we want free exchange and fair exchange, and we both grow together if we trade more with each other. Now, I do believe that the bolder you are in freeing things, the more good that happens. And I know countries always find this very difficult. Governments find it particularly difficult. Because why do a lot of people go into government? Well, they want to boss you around. They want to regulate you more. They think they can spend your money better than you can spend it yourself. I'm an odd politician. That's why sometimes maybe I get some criticism. Because I start from the proposition that I'd rather you spent your own money. I have a suspicion you're rather better at spending it in the way you want than I would be doing it for you. And I would rather let you get on and run your business and undertake your trade activities without telling you how to do it. I know it's difficult because I've done it as a businessman myself, and I know that the more you have other people telling you how to do it, the more complicated and difficult it gets. And you can get to the point where the world is so regulated that you spend half your time on compliance, trying to make sure you're doing it in the way they want you to do it, and then you lose your customers because they don't actually like the way the regulator told you to do it, or they say, look, you're spending so much time on the regulator, why don't you spend a bit more time on me? I'm the customer, I'm the person that matters. So my advice always to any country wanting to grow faster is be bold. Cut the taxes, reduce the regulations, trust the individuals, the families, the people of spirit and enterprise and energy, and then you will grow faster. And I think India is beginning to do that. It makes it even more exciting. And the more open you can be, the more you'll get back. The more talent and energy and money you attract in, so the more you will enrich your own people and free them to achieve greater things. I know India pays great store by great education. And you are doing wonderful things, improving educational standards in India. We too in Britain think excellence in education is crucial. And whilst there are some criticisms of some parts of the educational system in Britain, which your previous guest, Mr. Clark, was retailing to you, I'm mighty proud of the great schools and universities in my country. And I think they are too part of the offer we make to the world. And the more that there is good exchange between Oxford and Cambridge and London universities and the great universities of India, the better. Because the way to get high living standards is to be part of the knowledge economy. The way to get better off is to back your people and educate them to a higher standard, as many Indian families know and are now doing. And the way that we all get richer is to back the men and women of vision, the people who make the blue skies breakthroughs, the people who apply those in technology. And it's best if you can do both. It is wonderful if you have the dreamers and the inspirational people in the academies and the people who can take the significance of their breakthrough and apply it to make money. And this is where America is still incredibly strong and still a great competitor and ally to us both, the United Kingdom and India. And when the bright young things arrive in Yale and Harvard, most of them are like our students. They want to play hard, work hard, and get a degree. But some of them in Yale and Harvard get a bit bored, and they set up a business out of their study bedroom. And by the time they're 25, they are billionaires. Indeed, some of them leave the university, the one that everybody else wants a place at, without bothering with the degree. Because if you've got $5 billion in your back pocket, somehow having a degree doesn't seem quite as important as if you need that degree to improve your living standards and get your job. Whereas when people go to the great British universities, they tend to join the Tiddlywinks Club or play a bit of rugby, and they don't set up that business, and they're not billionaires by the time they're 25. And that is the difference. And that is what we have to capture, India and Britain. If we want to be as rich as America, we have to have that capacity that releases the enterprise and makes people do the things that are really good. The United Kingdom stands fully behind India in her wish to be more strongly represented at the top tables in the UN and the IMF and all the rest of it. Because we think India is a great power, she will be a greater power. The rest of the world needs to recognize this. We love to do business with you, and it's great to see you in London. Please spend as much as you can while you're here.